I'm not spilling this one.
No, that's. I know there's something wrong with the way you open. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, it's Chris Hawes and
Leo Maguire.
And this is Offside with Hawes and Maguire. And we're here to talk to you about some hockey. We were just watching the Leafs game, and sorry we didn't make it in the first or second intermissions. But, you know...
My bad.
It was him. It was all him. But, we're here now, post-game, to talk about it. So what did you think of that ridiculous game?
It's ridiculous.
Well, I'm saying it was ridiculous because, frankly...
Great win by the Leafs, man. Stave off elimination.
Oh, fuck, I know.
You know, a series that they actually were favored going in, and all the angst. 3 relatively close games. They're down 3-0. They stave it off tonight. Everybody and their brother, Toronto certainly, thinking they can become the 5th team all time since 1942, which was the Leaf team.
Well, do you know what? They possibly could. I mean, at the end of the day, they had beat Florida in the regular season.
Yeah.
Four of those
I put
games.
zero stock in that myself personally.
Me either. That's what I'm saying.
These teams,
yeah.
this Florida team is totally there. Yeah, exactly.
Whatever you say.
But it's a good tee up, but I don't put any stock in it. Like,
Okay.
it's just, you know, it's like you watch a game during the season, and all the announcers are great. You know, I love them all, but they bring up the stats. Well, the last 8 times that this team has played this team, they've gone 1 for 19 on the power play, going back like 2 years. It doesn't matter. You got 2 totally different rosters. This Florida team that knocked off the Bruins, albeit a Bruin team fighting some injuries, not as bad as 2017 when Ottawa beat them and they had no D. But I mean, at the end of the day, they were up 3-1 on Florida, and the Panthers came back and got a Game 7 win in overtime, which is a coin flip.
Yeah.
That's a coin flip. But then they go up 3 on Toronto. Like, if you win 1, okay. You win 2, you know, in their barn. You got to come back. Toronto's got to, you know, and there's no home ice advantage anymore. The road teams are winning the majority of the games. So, you know, I don't put any stock in that.
So what stock do you put in the fact that there's some sort of, I'm going to say, moral justice in Toronto being behind 3-1? Now, I mean, I liked it when they were down 3-0. But I mean,
moral justice.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to say. If you're a Toronto fan, I don't want to just say this. Okay. It's not that I dislike the Toronto Maple Leafs. I dislike your fans because it's the obnoxious behavior as a result, and that's why And I'm going to bring this up. That's why Florida didn't want Toronto fans in their friggin' stadium. They met them.
How'd that work out for them?
Well, you know.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knew that was kind of a joke. The fact they even did it. In Ottawa, tried it a few years ago. It's hilarious. But, yeah, look, you know what? I'm on Twitter and social media pretty much, probably as much as anybody that I know.
Donald Trump.
Maybe not as much as him, but I mean, he got kicked off of Twitter.
That's true,
so,
he did, yeah.
But you know, I'm on a lot. I'm an active social media user.
Right.
And there's 32 teams in the NHL. Every single fan base has massive idiots on it.
Do they though really? I
mean, they do. It's just nobody cares about Arizona.
Well,
you know, I mean, nobody cares about Anaheim, and yet they went to, you know, the final in 03 and won a cup in 07, and you know, and obviously one of the relatively new expansion teams coming in 93, 94, and you know what? I mean, yeah, there's maybe a half dozen or so that you would say are innocuous. You know, like nobody really cares. Leaf fan base and others, the original 6 teams, but the Leafs are. They're the Leaf fan base, and yeah, they got a ton of players that I like as players, but it's not even just their fans. It's like some of the bloggers, some of the guys who just they take something and they run with it, and it's so pro-Leaf, and they do it in a way that I won't mention any names, but it's some of them are tough to.
Can you mention a name to me? Just whisper it. Let's just whisper it.
Yeah, you know what? I
won't say it out loud.
No, you know what? I'm not gonna. I don't even want to justify him by doing that, but I think, but to your point. I think it's those types that where a lot of us who we cheer for other teams.
Absolutely.
And look, I'm a Habs fan. I'd be the first to tell you that the Montreal.
You're a Habs fan?
Well, I think. Let me. Yeah. Just the last few minutes. I don't know. Yeah, hardcore, and we got so many morons on social media.
You know what?
It's not even funny.
Well, the problem is though when you have and I will agree with you on a lot of those places, but I think in the Northeast especially, like you see Boston, New Jersey, New York Rangers, their fans can be crazy. Boston fans, and I'm a Boston fan, but I've met Boston fans who are like, they're from East Boston, and anybody who's not a Boston fan is a cocksucker. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? And they just rip them apart, right? But anyways, let's get back to the game.
I don't mind Bruin fans. It's funny. I don't mind. Maybe to your point even more is that I could say Bruin fans, Blackhawk fans, you want to stay down there's some Detroit fans, I would say. I'm just speaking as a guy who's been on Twitter since 2009.
Right.
So I'm using Twitter sort of as the benchmark, because if you really want to get into the social media app, I suppose Reddit, but that's for a much younger demographic.
And I know neither of those. Like, I'm not on Twitter.
Right.
Like, I don't tweet. That's the term, right? That's the verb.
Yeah, you tweet.
Tweeting.
Yeah.
That's the verb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't tweet because honestly, no one gives a shit what I have to say. So what's the point?
No, but here's the thing. That's the thing about social media, is you can make a post and all of a sudden you'll have 1,000 people are going to care what you said because you just said something that was so inflammatory. And I'm not saying
you just said the magic word. I can inflame 1,000 people.
You can, man. I'm talking. Listen, I know a little bit about your background, and you can inflame. Maybe Twitter is for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
So I'm gonna, instead of inflame, I'm gonna call it arouse, and then I'll see what we can do.
Well, that may not work at all. Maybe you need an OnlyFans account. That's a different site altogether.
Yeah,
That's the online version of Blue Nuit.
It is the online version of Blue Nuit. Which, listen, here's the thing. I haven't seen the OnlyFans. I've heard about it.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it. But I have seen Blue Nuit.
There you go.
And I can tell you, it's the greatest part of being close to the Ontario-Quebec border.
Well, listen, yes. Back in the day, the proverbial back in the day expression, 9 million years ago, when I grew up on the country lane, the first line.
Would that be the Cars Road?
That would be the Cars Road, first line. And, we had the TV with 3 channels and the French channel, CBOFT, Channel 9. And stumbling across when I finally was of age to stay up a little later at night, and stumbling across Blue Nuit was quite an
awakening.
Quite an experience.
It's an awakening.
Yeah, because there was no VCRs or, first we, you got the VHSs and the Betamaxes.
Yeah.
And those things.
We never had any of that. We had nothing. I remember one time my dad rented one.
Well, we didn't own them. We rented them too.
Oh, you rent the whole machine?
Yeah. You'd come in Mantic, focus on video.
Okay.
And from Ray Schill, and you'd rent you'd always rent a couple John Wayne movies and then maybe something else. But man. I mean, we owned nothing. Are you kidding me? We didn't get a color TV till I was like 13. I mean, it was a different world, eh?
Wow.
But French TV had the Blue Nuit but you know what? We gotta say this. We gotta get this out. And just saying, as Boston Bruin fans, 53 years ago tonight, man, Bobby Orr flying through the air.
Oh, is this this is the number 4?
Today's the day.
This is but today's the 10th.
That's right. That was the day.
It was May 10th.
May 10th, 1970, Mother's Day, 1970, Sunday, and that game ended actually at 5:10 p.m. It was an afternoon start, which was the date.
Oh, okay.
5th month, 10th day.
Okay.
Well, and it ended at 5:10. Yeah. But there are 70 associations
with the number 4.
To the number 4. That precise moment that Bobby scored. It's the greatest statistical numerical anomaly in the history of mankind. I've got it in 2 of my books. Bobby loves it. He wrote the foreword to my second book, and I haven't seen him in a few years, but I did speak at his golf tournament 6 years in a row, and I'd go down early for the VIP thing. He'd always invite me. So gracious, and with all the other guests that he'd brought in, and he'd always ask me to rhyme off a bunch of them. So
let's we don't have time for all 7.
No. Nor do you have enough beer.
We don't. Well, give me how about 4 number 4?
Yeah. No, here's so Bobby Orr 4. He was tripped by Noah Picardo Orr 4. Yeah. It was the 4th goal of the 4th period.
Okay, that's it. That's 4.
Of the 4th game, scored at the 42nd mark. It was the Boston Bruins' 4th Stanley Cup. It was a culmination of Bobby's 4th season in the NHL. He won 4 major awards, becoming the first player in NHL history to do so when he won the Conn Smythe Trophy. Yeah. He also won the Art Ross and the Hart and the Norris. And he beat the goals record in playoffs by 4. He beat the points record in playoffs by 4. Those records held by Tim Horton and Pierre Pilote previously.
Okay.
2 All-Star defensemen, Hall of Fame defensemen. 70 associations to the number 4. 4 games. There was 4-game sweeps that year. Goes on and on, all the way to 70.
All the way to
so
70.
there's 8 or 9 quick ones for you. But
okay, so let's talk about. I want to actually poke Toronto a little bit because today was a great game. They played defensively. They were in front of pucks. They collapsed. There was no place to shoot. And
could have collapsed after it went 2-1. Could have collapsed, and they did.
Oh, they did. That's right. Yeah, they actually showed something I never thought they had, which was like some gumption.
Yeah.
Right. They stuck it out, but still, I'm not seeing anything from Matthews. I'm not seeing anything from in Marner. Yes, he got that goal, but
he got the game winner.
Yeah, he got the game
Went
winner.
off the snide.
Yeah, but that's what that was from the point from far away. I mean, I like to see him making that pass to the guy in the slot like he normally does to get that goal. Like what's happening with these guys? Like are we going to get rid of them? Not we. And by me I mean I'm not a general manager at all.
No, I think look, if the Leafs don't pull off the miracle here and they lose this series, which still statistically they should, but maybe they won't.
Right.
And this conversation changes on the flip of a dime here. Crazy. But if they lose this series, Chris, then yeah, I mean, I think there's no question they've got to. First of all, I think Dubas, the general manager, Kyle Dubas, would probably not be renewed. I think Brendan Shanahan, with the whole Shana plan, which is 7 years now in the making, that has to be reevaluated, and possibly maybe he needs to move on as well. I don't know. I mean, ultimately, the buck has to stop somewhere. Like you can't finally win the first round, beat the 3-time defending finalist, even regardless of how banged up they were. Toronto needed to get a big monkey off their back, and they did. And a ton of people, an absolute ton of people who follow the sport professionally and weigh in on it without emotion and without fan favoritism and all the rest of that, felt that if the Leafs were to win a round, finally, in 19 years, that would springboard them, especially with their nemesis, the Bruins, being knocked out, especially with them beating another nemesis in Tampa Bay, the defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado get knocked out. Like, the road was paved all the way to Lord Stanley. And then they lay an egg against Florida. Well, so, Chris, they got to break up the court if they lose.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. Now, I consider Toronto, to be honest, I consider them the alcoholic boyfriend. Okay? The fans are the girlfriend, and there's hope that he's going to finally change. Okay, but then again, he doesn't because he goes out and gets drunk, right? And not that we're insulting the guy for that. But the point is that unreliable. In my opinion, Toronto. Yeah. And how do you fucking be unreliable for 56 years?
Well, that's,
56 years.
You can't, obviously, you bring that all the way back and you look, Harold Ballard was single-handedly responsible for destroying that franchise. Certainly through the 70s, they had a top core unit with Sittler, Thompson, and McDonald, and Salming and Turnbull, and you give a little bit of credence to Mike Palmateer and net. They had zero depth beyond that, and they knocked off the Islanders in 78, promptly lost 4 straight to Montreal, then the Habs beat them 4 straight again in 79. The franchise just nosedived, ended up getting Wendell Clark, and really, frankly, it was after Harold's death, which, if you want to draw an analogy here in Ottawa, after Eugene Melnyk passed away, regardless of whatever role the girls had, which I think largely was just get through and do what they're doing now, get ready for the sale and everything. Bottom line is, whether they keep here in Ottawa Dorian and DJ Smith, it remains to be seen. Fact is that the team looks like they're poised here in Ottawa to maybe go to perhaps some of their best lengths since the height of Alfie and Spezza and Heatley, right? Yeah. And in Toronto's case, after Ballard passed away and the team got sold, I believe a year later, the estate under his son Bill Ballard to Toronto's Teachers Pension Fund, who promptly hired Cliff Fletcher, who promptly made the Doug Gilmour trade with Calgary. Yeah. And, then they go to the semifinals in 93 and 94.
Right.
So, the end of the day, there's there's order sometimes to chaos. There's
Well,
order sometimes to chaos. And in Toronto's case, the Shanahan plan, and I want to say something else. In deference, the thing is, when Dubas gave those guys $40 million, nobody knew we were going to hit a flat cap. Nobody knew that. And because the cap was going up several million a year. You could, maybe you couldn't eat a full mistake, but you definitely wouldn't have been as hamstringed as they were, and as handcuffed as they were. I mean, they really have been. And look, he still has to eat it because the Tavares signing has obviously not been good. And ultimately, at the end of the day, and you just said it, Austin Matthews, for a guy who scored 60 goals 2 years ago, was supposed to be the next coming. It was even mentioned 2 years ago, was in the same breath as Connor McDavid, which is ridiculous. Having said that, he's been invisible here in this series. This is only the second round.
Yeah.
Do you see what Carolina are doing on the other side? I mean, tell you
know
what.
It's exciting too.
Oh man, listen,
I
was at the game. I was at
you were at the game, but that
game
that
3.
went the other way.
Yeah, the one that New Jersey got.
Yeah.
I was in the building thanks to
8-3,
Chris
right?
Vickers. 8-4.
8-4.
12 goals, 4 shorties, a penalty shot goal, couple fights, crowd going nuts. Unbelievable atmosphere. Unbelievable atmosphere. I mean, I love it. Absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. And then they went out and got waxed. Carolina scores 5. Second period, next game, boom, 6-1, over, down 3-1. Probably no coming back from that because Carolina are the stronger team, but New Jersey looks so good in Game 3.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, the Leafs, they lose this series, Chris, you got to break them up.
Yeah.
You got to break them up. It's the end of the day. What are you going to do, keep rolling them out and have another great regular season? I mean, it's just not good enough. It's not good enough.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't think I can stomach hearing how this is going to be Toronto's year again. I'm sorry.
I know, but it's comical, right? Because even going back, I mean, look at they blew it to the Habs. So that's their worst series loss in their history, in my opinion. Was 2021. 100%. Tell me,
not the meltdown against Boston.
No, because that was one game. Like that's their worst game loss. I think.
Right.
You're up 4-1 with 10:22 to play. And you lose it in overtime in a Game 7. That just can't happen. But you're up 3-1 against a vastly inferior Montreal Canadiens, and you lose the next 3 games with all the same guys absolutely fading into oblivion, and then getting swept. Columbus beats them. Tampa, and of course Boston. Just it's like whack-a-mole every year. Just whack the Leafs down. And then they get through this year,
Yeah.
And the guys are playing okay, but then they disappear against Florida. I don't know. We'll see. Marner scored tonight, so we'll see. And
I for one, I do hope, for the sake of the fans, that the Leafs do make this a series, and frankly, for the sake of, I would love nothing more than a Toronto-Edmonton final.
Oh,
it's not looking very good on either side, right? I mean. We'll see what the Oilers do tonight. Actually, we should. Is this live? This is just highlights.
Okay.
But we are. By the way, we have the game on while we're here, being able to keep. We are high tech, right?
This is very high tech. I'm very impressed.
We're going. What's that?
Yeah,
except for the bugs.
Chris, it just adds to the ambiance.
That's right. The ambiance.
Just adds to
the
ambiance of it all.
You swallow a couple of bugs.
Yeah, man. It's like the old days.
We're at the lodge. That's the thing.
We're at the lodge. Yeah.
That's what I call it.
The Hawes Lodge.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
so some other things to talk about. Like we actually are ill prepared.
Yes.
To talk about things. I have a whole bunch of things, but what
That's
would you
my
like
fault.
to talk about?
I didn't give you enough. Well, we just had the draft lottery, and I just want to say to anybody who thinks it's rigged, shut up.
I thought it was rigged.
Oh, give me a break.
Come on, how does Chicago get that?
Well, how do they not?
Because they needed it. Well,
you don't think Anaheim needed it?
But
who didn't need it? You don't think Columbus needed it? I mean, it went right through to form, which you rarely see. The overwhelming majority, not the overwhelming, but the majority of times since they did the lottery, in fact, the team that finishes last does not get first overall. It does not happen typically. Usually there's a bump. There's been some crazy ones. The Flyers, I think, have come from the furthest back. But I mean, it's to move up. They didn't go all the way to 1, but they moved up enough. I think that was the year they took Patrick. But You know what? No, it's ridiculous, these people who think it's rigged. You'd think it was rigged. You'd think they would give the Oilers 3 out of first pick overall, 3 out of 4 years.
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying this year.
Oh, okay. Come on.
Well, listen,
just because of Chicago over Anaheim?
We're going to have conspiracy theories. You know what I mean? Let's,
God.
No. Now, that being said,
that's just
because
comical.
Chicago's a really important market. It's a huge television market.
Man, you know what? They've won 3 cups in the last 13 years. I don't think they needed another prop up to get arguably the next coming. Like to me, it's ridiculous. I mean, maybe if the Hawks had still been suffering like they had since 1961, when they won the previous cup to 2010, I could maybe say, okay, maybe some underhanded backdoor move is in play here. But I don't see that at all. This is a franchise that has been absolutely reveling in Stanley Cup parades.
Well,
for the last
no doubt.
10
Absolutely.
years, 13 years. It's crazy,
but
crazy.
We like to throw out conspiracy theories and reasons to dislike Gary Bettman.
Oh, well.
Right? And I'll be honest with you. I didn't, excuse me, I just ate a bug. I didn't like Gary Bettman at first, okay? But I have to admit that I have actually, not only would I say I've grown to like Gary Bettman, you know what? I think he's actually been great for the game of hockey, and I can't believe I'm saying that.
You know what? He's been great for the ownership of the NHL. Okay. Myself personally, I would say he's been great for the ownership of the NHL because he makes them all a ton of money, and he's done this with. But
all the athletes, all the players are making a ton of money now too. I mean, at the end of the day, it's spread out. I mean, when you got a guy like Connor McDavid's making what, 13? Something in that
less than that. Yeah.
Right. Okay, but
11 something.
Okay, but whatever it is, like making over $10 million a year, and he deserves it relative to what things. Of course. But when you take a look at what Orr made relative, it's not the same. Orr made he was $1 million man, but he should have been and the ownership took the lion's share back then.
They did that. Look, the NHL has had 2 major significant alterations to their salary structure. One came when the WHA started in 1972 because everybody that was playing pro hockey, specifically in the NHL, their salaries tripled.
Right.
I know for a fact. Paul Henderson told me his salary went from $25,000 a year with the Toronto Maple Leafs to $75,000 a year with the Toronto Toros. So, and he's at home with 3 daughters under the age of 13, 14. You don't think that had a massive effect on his life in the 1970s? So, the second thing that had the biggest effect on salaries was salary disclosure. Right. When I knew what Chris Hawes was making and Chris knew what Liam Maguire was making. So, if I had the 40-goal season and you're making $500,000 less than me and you went, hey, what the hell? Chris had 50, I scored 40, I'm making a $500,000 more. You're going, you got to fix this. Like all of a sudden, everybody knew, and contracts are being renegotiated left, right, and center. Money just started screaming. So that was the second really big, significant change. And of course, it went all the way to craziness, which ended up bringing in a salary cap.
Right.
After the lockout in 2005.
But the cap's a bit. I mean, you know what?
Well, you can circumvent it, as we've seen Tampa. And they weren't the first team to do it. I mean, others have done it, but I mean, even Stanley Cup winners. Chicago was about $5 million over the cap when they won the Cup in 2010. So they actually were the first to breach it. But the rules, they didn't break a rule. When the rosters expand in the playoffs and everybody's allowed to carry more players, they said we can't have an active cap when we're allowing teams to add more players.
Right.
So whatever they're being paid. So if you are on long-term injury reserve through the year, and all of a sudden Kucherov is healthy,
that was just a coincidence.
Oh yeah, totally. Like Mark Stone in Vegas this year.
Yeah.
My back. Oh, he's ready for game 1 of the playoffs. I can't believe it.
But let's be fair, playoff hockey is different hockey.
Well, it's different hockey.
It's almost like when you're having dinner, you're full, but there's room for dessert.
Yeah, but does anybody really believe that exactly, that's a good way to put it. Anybody really believe that Mark Stone couldn't have played the last week of the season? I mean, come on. But they were long in the playoffs anyway. Yeah. We're going to see him on the ice here shortly.
We got to wrap it up because the game's going to start. The Edmonton's game is about to start, and we're going to catch that. But in closing, what would you like to say? Has there been anything, like biting your ass all week?
Well, I just wanted to get that out there that the draft lottery is not rigged. And I also want to say that for the naysayers out there that are crapping on the Habs, how they handle Slafkovsky, like, just shut your arsehole mouths. Like, what is just so sick of people thinking that the Habs mishandled him. They made one mistake in hindsight. When he was on a line with Anderson and Suzuki, the injuries were just coming left, right, and center on Montreal. And then he ended up getting hurt himself. That line, not only was it the number one line on the Habs, it was for a couple of games, was as good a line as it was in the NHL for a few games. And he had to come off the line because so many injuries, and he ended up getting hurt himself. He was 18 years old. He's 18, turning 19. I watched every single second that he played. This guy's a blue chipper. Trust me, he's a blue chipper. Habs got a solid pick in Slafkovsky. That's been bugging me too. Just some industry people making comments. And I thought, well, we're sort of industry people here right now on Offside with Hawes and Maguire.
That's right.
So I'm calling it right now. Just shut up. Hey, you sound like such an idiot. You know, if anybody who's hammering how the Habs handled Slafkovsky, the thing was, in hindsight, you would have loved to put him in the World Junior.
Right.
You know,
could.
But at the time, he played there. He played in the Olympics, and he's playing on Montreal's number one line. You're not sending him back.
No,
it looked like a bad move 3 weeks later. You know.
Yeah, but that's not. But you know what?
Well, you think he's the first guy that's been eligible that hasn't gone back? Like, wake the hell up! This has been going on forever. The Canadians, Team Canada, not Montreal Canadians, but Canada Canadians, have missed so many guys for decades that have been kept in the NHL on their teams. None worse than Manny Malhotra in 1999 in the New York Rangers. It still bugs me to this day. Bullshit. He should have been released. We were missing 10 guys in the show. We were missing 10 guys in 1986. We won 2 silver medals. And people say, oh, look at Forsberg in the early 90s. Look at what he did at 19 years old. Look at, 43 points and all the Swedes. Oh, beauties. They're beauties. If Wayne Gretzky had played in the World Juniors at 19 years of age, he would have got 60 or 70 points in the World Junior Championship. Yeah. Chris, he was scoring 137 in the NHL. Yeah. What would he have done in junior?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, absolutely. You know what?
I got that off my chest. I feel good.
Is. And you know what? We're going to get him a Valium. And you know what? I find mixing alcohol with prescription drugs.
Well, that's the best.
It's worked for the rock stars for years.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm following that blueprint.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for watching. We'll be back on another episode on another game because now that Toronto is there, we'll be there. The next game. Can we make an agreement for the next game?
I tell you, I think I'm in trouble then that night too.
Oh my God, the guy's he's busy. So anyway, thanks for watching. This has been Offside with Hawes and Maguire. I'm Hawes.
I'm Maguire.
Thanks for watching.
G'day.